Hi, I'm Jennifer Poole,
And I'm Dave Poole.
and this is our 20 days.
Welcome back to Our 20 Days, our latest episode. So, this episode, I'm going to spend time with my great friend Tom Roberts. Tom and I were best men in each other's weddings and have known each other for going on 30 years. We've played music together, we've taken great trips together, we've had lots of great life experiences together. I consider Tom a real role model for my religious formation. I had spent some time last fall in Columbus. Tom and his wife Amy welcomed me into their home, and we spent a great weekend together. Spent a couple hours in front of a camera recording just a wide-ranging set of conversations. So today we're going to talk a little bit of how we met and some of those early life experiences we did together. Well, welcome to the latest episode of Our 20 Days. Today I'm with my great friend Tom Roberts. We're in his home in Upper Arlington, Columbus, Ohio area, and spending a couple of days here in the weekend. And Tom's just kind of a real continuation of this right people, right place, right time in my life, in Jennifer's life. Tom was best man in Jennifer and my wedding, and likewise I was the best man in your wedding
Yes.
with Amy I guess it was 6 years after us.
Yes.
Does that sound right?
That sounds right.
So you guys were 2006 and we were in 2000. So,
Correct.
so let's just start by talk a little bit about how you and I met. Tell me what you remember of that and when that was.
Yeah, I remember more of the purpose. I came out of school, out of college at Ohio State, and went to work at Mead Research in Chillicothe area, and that's where you were working.
Yeah.
And during college, I had played music, and I was in a two-person band where I was synthesizers and using MIDI to computer control everything, digitally. So I didn't know how to drum. I just was doing
know how to
this
tap on
and
keys,
tapping
basically.
on. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I put those together, and so then when I met Dave, just through being at Mead Research and him being in IT and us having some similar interests,
Yeah.
and music being one of those, then it was like, oh, Dave, here, can you listen to some of my songs and lay down some real drum tracks for me, so I've got better drum tracks behind my music. And so that just led to, hey, let's get together and just jam some time, and we did that, and it's kind of tough to play sequenced music along with a live drummer.
Yeah.
So I traded in one of my keyboards for my first bass,
Yep.
and I started playing bass along with it. And then the guitarist that I played with in college was still in the Columbus, Ohio area, so he would come down, and the three of us would get together and play music together.
Yeah,
So-
those were fun days. And it was I'm staying here in Tom's house this weekend, and to get to my bedroom while I'm here, you kind of pass through kind of the electronic central up there. I assume that's where your router is and all the other connections
Yes.
and whatnot.
Yes.
But in addition to the bass you just referred to, this Kabiki bass, which is a unique brand. I don't think I've ever seen another one other than yours.
Yeah, no, that was my second. I got that one down.
Oh, that's right. You've got the Marvin
I think-
Martian bass up there.
Yeah, so it was originally just in
right.
that music store on, was it Bridge Street?
Yeah.
In Chillicothe, and traded in a Mirage
Yep.
synthesizer or sampler back at the time, and that was just a key bass.
Right.
So just a starter sort
Yeah,
of
functional.
bass,
Four strings,
bass.
a volume switch.
But it was headless, which was important to me,
Yeah.
with a little bit of attitude. So it had like a wood grain starburst sort
Okay.
of thing originally, but just to go with more the theme I wanted to, I sanded that off and then painted on Marvin Martian from Bugs Bunny on it, and then refinished it that way.
That's
So
cool.
I'd have a little.
Yeah, that was a
bass
good
out
memory. I
little.
walked upstairs, turned the corner, and there's Marvin Martian. I hadn't seen nor thought about that bass in years, many years.
Yeah, so then I picked up the Kabiki once I knew that I was really interested in playing and wanting to play. And the Kabiki, is just kind of neat. Again, a headless bass, 4-string, but it can detune it down to D. You just got a
Yep.
lever on it that
Right.
can go down to D on that low string. And it was
Interesting.
just kind of neat, both active and passive pickups on it. And,
Yeah.
it was just a
So
nice product.
Tom's had a long history of social involvement, philanthropy, whatever you want to call that. Just, he and his wife Amy both very, very concerned for other people's well-beings. And one of the other great things I remember, you and I, and if you remember Teresa Krug,
Yes.
another good friend, Meade had a thing called the science essay
Okay.
back in those days, where local high school students were invited to write an essay on any scientifically related topic. And you'd get some that students were being required by a teacher to do it, and you'd get kind of quite a variety in those cases of topics and quality. And then you get other people that took it quite seriously.
Right.
And I know several of those essays were challenging for me to read. So people like you had a degree in metallurgy. Teresa was a chemist. At that time I didn't even have a degree yet, but I was in technology. And for what it's worth, I ended up with a degree in political science, so that doesn't serve my technology needs at all. But those were kind of challenging for me to read. I was always really pleased with the quality of work that those kids produced.
Yeah, it was really somewhat impressive to me because I was not of that caliber when I was in high school, and that was just
Yeah,
a
me
few
neither.
years before that. And so it was really inspiring to see some of what was done there. The ones I had challenged with, there's a lot looking at more medical side of
yeah.
things, biological, and then brain
Okay.
function things. And those are a little bit harder to just to learn the vocabulary
Yeah.
on. But really, I was doing a lot of screening for what's the scientific method. Are they just repeating something else, or did they do an experiment? How did they put that together?
Yeah, what was their
did they
hypothesis
draw?
and what did they do to test that? And,
Right.
yeah.
So I had a somewhat low bar of just okay, are you following a logical progression here? Are you following, and did you get conclusions that the data support, or that just you want to
Right.
have this conclusion? So I was really surprised the first year of reading those of what some of those contained.
Yeah, and I know Tom mentioned the specific name. We both work for the company called the Meade Corporation, and we happened to work in their research and development division, department, whatever you wanted to call that, which was in Chillicothe, Ohio. And I was always, two really strong memories for me were, one, there were about 140 people plus or minus that worked in this department, and they ranged anywhere from support staff like myself to laboratory technicians who would conduct some of the physical experiments in the various labs, to master's degree and PhD level scientists. And I don't know how well you remember a couple of specific people, but I was always taken by Bob Rounsley, if you remember Bob, PhD chemical engineer, and Cy Rutledge. I don't know if you remember Cy.
I remember the name. but I
Cy
don't
was
think
more
I
of a
worked
paper
with-
maker,
Okay.
degree in physics, and both of those guys could take the most complex topic and explain it to me, and if I didn't get it, they'd explain it to me in another manner, and if I didn't get it, they'd find a third way to explain it to me until I understood it. And for people that were just, these are world published, leading in their fields, people in their particular level of expertise, or area of expertise. They were patient, way more patient than I would have been with myself. Trying to teach these things to folks. So that was the one thing. And then the other thing was, again, kind of carrying our social responsibility thing. We did a thing called Christmas Cheer.
That's what I thought you were going to mention
Yeah.
first.
So tell me, what were your memories of that?
I just thought Christmas Cheer, the idea was brilliant, and I've tried to implement it other places as well. But the idea that all throughout the year, you're just having an auction every Friday morning. And so people could make baked goods, bring them in. Somebody, has something else that they're doing some spring cleaning and brought some stuff
Yard
in and
sale
just put it-
stuff.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
There's always stuff there, just a small batch of things, and then you just do a silent auction on it, and then spend the money and to buy it, and then all that money that was collected was then just what was used for Christmas cheer. And I can't remember, you might be able to tell me how many kids were affected
It was,
by that.
well, each year it was around 30 kids.
Okay.
So we'd go to local elementary schools and ask either the principal or an administrator of some sort to say, here's what we're doing. And most of the schools knew what we were doing because it was a tradition that started in the early 60s.
Okay.
Predecessed our births. This thing was that old. And we'd do around 30 kids. They would give us, 30 kids. And sometimes you get brothers and sisters in a family, so somebody didn't feel left out. But these were the families that were the hardest off, the worst off. I remember picking up some of these kids. I mean, think about, these are things we would not be allowed to do today. We would go to their homes, pick them up, and then take them shopping.
Right. Well, and that's what was really interesting about it as well, is how much logistics we were involved.
Yeah.
Because there were drivers to go get them, and then there were shoppers. We'd go to a department store that we'd have access to the department store before they opened up public.
Right.
Get stuff there, then have to transport back to
Back to
facility where we had
research. We
pizza,
had a party. Yeah.
and everybody got a gift off their wish list, because the shopping was more focused on what are the essentials you need. Make sure the kid's always getting underwear. Make sure you give them a coat, a winter coats, and so you had a necessities list that you're getting through, and then some fun list. But then there was always Santa Claus there for the pizza party afterwards that gave them a
And
list
I know, I think many of us, I know you did, I know I did, even, you had a spending limit. So we would have raised, I'm going to make up a number because I don't remember the number, let's call it $20,000 during the course of the year to spread around 30 kids. So you go spend whatever that works out to per kid. And then there's that last thing they see on the way out the door. So you're reaching into your own pocket and say, yeah, okay, I'll take care of that.
Absolutely.
So that was always fun. But like, I was saying that, could you imagine in this world today, first of all, I wouldn't do it because of just the liability and of all of that. Is you drive to these kids' homes, and it was just heartbreaking in many cases, where you'd show up where the only heat in this double wide trailer they were living in was the stove, and they'd have the stove open, and that was heating the whole house, something like that. So just dangerous things. And then many times, at least in my instances, there weren't even parents around or other adult guardians. You'd be there and there'd be 3 kids, and you were told to pick up 3 kids. You'd confirm their names. You'd load them up in the car and go. And it's like, well, no way in the world would I do that now.
And that's the brother-sister thing. Sometimes you're taking an older child along with the group, just because that's the one that was babysitting at the time and everything else. And so you couldn't just separate. So you end up taking the whole family just so there's supervision.
But it was just once you get them to the store and start the shopping experience, I was always amazed at how in tune even like an 8-year-old was with what his or her real needs were. Yeah, you get a lot of them, first thing they want to do is go to the candy aisle or go to the toy aisle or whatever. But the number of 8-year-olds that were probably, frankly, more mature than the adults living in the home, they knew they only had one pair of underwear or one pair of socks or a coat that wasn't going to last the winter.
Yeah, and that shopping experience was also very cool, because if you just went and picked somebody up, it's hard to get the conversation going, hard for them to feel comfortable. But then now you're walking through a store together for several hours, you're pointing out things, kids' eyes are lighting up at this, and gives you opportunities to have that conversation. And again, if you had one that was more quiet, the brothers, the sisters, the older siblings would say, no, they need that, they need some of these, that they were like the responsible shoppers of taking care.
Yeah. Well, as you can see, Tom and I cover quite a lot of ground, so you'll see a number of episodes over a number of weeks covering this visit that Tom and I had together. So we look forward to seeing you on the next episode, and thanks for tuning in. Make sure you press the subscribe or like button so you can be notified of new publication of episodes, and we appreciate you joining us. Thanks again.